One of the first things you see when you start the demo is a message talking about how things were changed, rearranged, and even removed. But what was altered? Since the demo and gameplay trailer takes place in the same area, we can actually cross-compare the two and find out what the devs were hiding in their release of the demo. I'll be sure to label each gameplay segment between the demo and trailer. The first thing we see in the gameplay trailer are giant looming ruins of structures of unknown purpose. These structures and the surface of the planet and the foliage on the surface of the planet do not appear in the demo at all. The demo takes place exclusively underground. But even further than that, these structures aren't in the demo's files. This tells me that the demo really is just a small slice of game area, and believe me, I checked. Following that, it shows off the inside where the demo takes place, and I want you to take notice of the wall. Both the wall and the button nearby it have no biological mass growing over it, even though the area is still clearly corrupted by it. This stands in complete contrast to the demo, where the button is unusable by the player because the actual button part the Scorn guy is supposed to be able to press is covered up by red mass, and just to drive it home even further, even the wall has a little bit of red mass striping over it. So presumably in the actual game, that button would be interactable. Maybe it lowers the wall and allows you to actually walk on the bridge. And now onto the gameplay. The first thing to notice in the very start of the gameplay trailer, which is slowed down to see more clearly, is that Scorn Guy starts out with his key attachment on his wrist. The stone key or lock on the door is also different. It's mostly gray with orange highlights. Meanwhile, in the demo, you actually have to acquire the stone key by using a machine in the lower level, which is not seen in the demo at all. And the lock on the doors were changed to be much clearer and more evident at long distances, with the majority of it being a color. The next two clips will be presented without commentary. Listen closely and see if you can tell the difference between the sounds in the areas. More seems to be going on, at least in the background, in the game trailer. The machines are still working even without the prompt of the player. Whether or not we'll see what machines are making that noise is unknown, but it's very different than the sheer silence we were treated to when going through just the demo. The console used to upgrade the key is also different. In the trailer, there's 3 lights with an extra part above them. It's unknown what that part is or what it does, But in the demo, that part and extra light is removed, and in fact there's even separate console lights for just 2 versus 3 in the game files. The top part was likely removed because the demo, being a chunk of area later in the game, doesn't really ease a player into the mechanics of the game and would probably be too confusing for people. After all, most people I've seen play through this demo accidentally figured out how to use the console rather than use it by virtue of any actual puzzle solving skills. Additionally, in the trailer, in the area behind the key press, the area is lit up while it's completely dark in the demo. In the demo, the first 2 enemies you come across are a kiwi and a bear pretending to sleep and waiting to attack. This serves as the basis of the tone for the rest of the game, which the developers themselves admit are, quote, more aggressive than what the game will generally end up being. In complete contrast, in the trailer here, the first thing the player sees is 2 kiwis, one walking around and dragging another possibly dead brother of his by some umbilical cord or attachment. The kiwi, though not exactly too friendly looking, is ultimately neutral. It doesn't try to attack the player, and the player is able to just sidestep around it and go on his way. This indicates a little bit more nuance with how the creatures will behave, especially considering some later on are hostile. In the exact same area in the demo, the kiwi's just an asshole. The bridge raising moment is probably one of the more awe-inspiring moments in both the trailer and the demo. Not only do you get to see some hulking industrial machinery in action, but you're also introduced to a new creature, the flying head spore. In the trailer, it's introduced by one of the bears climbing over a pile of corpses of its own brothers, keeling over, and the spore flying away. This implies a very complex ecosystem even among these similar looking creatures. Meanwhile, in the demo, the bear is completely stationary, laying down and probably dead, and the flying head spore flies off only when you get close enough to it. At least you're able to kill it in the demo. By this point in the demo, you should be familiar with the combat. And there was a hole in the floor in the trailer. In order to get the wrist key upgrade to your own character, you had to at least kill or disable one of the bear enemies on the lower floor. In contrast, this is the first time combat is introduced in the gameplay trailer. Like in the demo, one of the bears falls from the ceiling and just sort of sits there in a decrepit, injured state. Unlike in the demo, you don't have to kill it in order for its friend to rise up and start coming after you. It seems to do so immediately, standing only a few feet away and walking toward you, as if the injured one was just a distraction. In the demo, that bear would be laying down among a few corpses in the back where you see it's quite lit up, which, in addition to it just laying down there and letting you walk up and shoot it before it can do anything, the area in general is darker and walled off after only a foot or two. So there's more to this facility than we know in the demo. Seconds later in the trailer, the player comes to the area where you can see a bunch of the flying head spores mingling about among various chains of bears attached to ceilings and walls. One of the head spores actually acts aggressive to the player, flying up from below and showing off its lower mouthpiece that was previously attached to one of the dying bears on the bridge earlier. It's as if to say, you will meet the same fate. Not even any time to think, seconds later a bear latches on to the player, and this is normally an instant kill in the demo. But in the trailer, the player is able to brush it off with a shotgun and put it down for good. The player then continues walking down the ramp, but turns around to see one of the head spores, the one that previously acted aggressively toward him, waiting just a few feet behind him, in case, I presume, he makes the poor mistake of trying to walk back and get further into its territory. In contrast, in the demo, there's 2 bears and no aggressive head spores. One bear is waiting, sleeping, or pretending to be dead, closer to the left of the view of all the head spores. The other bear is in about the same area. It will walk out if you walk forward too far or attack its friend. And the head spores, they do not care at all. In fact, if you shoot one of them, they'll all fly away and effectively disappear. So the enemy behavior is very different between the trailer and demo, even with peaceful enemies. And as for brushing off bears with a shotgun, doesn't work in the demo. If they catch you, you're dead. At the end of the trailer, the player opens up a door, sees 2 bears and a kiwi awake and ready to attack, and promptly nopes the fuck out. He doesn't need to be dealing with that. Instead, after an ammo check, he walks forward and promptly meets his demise by the blinding effects of a ceiling penis. What's interesting about here is that it seems to be the light that's causing the blinding effects rather than the ceiling penis itself. While in the demo, the effect and the majority of the light comes from the ceiling penis and not the one hanging before it on the elevator. Also, in the same area in the demo, there's only 2 sleeping bears which you can either kill or run past in order to get to the end. They're not too much trouble, that's for certain, and you will probably have more ammunition than the person playing in the trailer anyways. And there's no ceiling penis if you decide to go back. At the end of the trailer, you get a shot of the logo rising out from some liquid, and then that's where it ends. While in the demo, you walk down some long hallway, some music plays, and eventually the game forces you to slow down, fades to black, and just shows a still image of the logo. And that about covers it for the differences. There's a few more, like the fact that in the trailer the rooms are overall darker with much heavier shadows than in the demo. But even here, in this little comparison, you can see there's a lot more to the area than the devs were letting on. There's entire rooms unexplored, both for the player going through the demo and for what the trailer didn't show but the demo allowed you to walk around in. I'm sure there's a lot more surprises in store, and in fact there's a few things in the gameplay files that aren't found in either the demo or the trailer. But nonetheless, I do hope this gives you an idea of the big differences between the two and lets you know there's a little bit more than the rather bare bones demo would have let you on. Anyways, thanks for watching. I hope I gave you something to think about and otherwise entertained you. Take care.